AITA for refusing to help my sister with her wedding after she humiliated me in front of our family? I, 28F, have always had a complicated relationship with my older sister, Emma, 32F. Growing up, she was the golden child, the one everyone adored, while I was more the quiet, awkward one who got overlooked. My parents often compared us, praising her achievements and ignoring mine, which naturally built a lot of resentment over the years. Despite this, I try to maintain a decent relationship with her because I didn't want our childhood rivalry to define our adulthood. Recently, Emma got engaged to her boyfriend, Josh. She immediately began planning a huge wedding and insisted that everyone in the family be involved. I wasn't that close to Josh, and I didn't really feel like I had the time or energy to take on a major role in planning the wedding, but I offered to help in small ways, like researching vendors or helping with invitations. Emma seemed pleased with this and assured me that any help would be appreciated. As wedding planning progressed, Emma became more controlling and demanding. She wanted every detail to be perfect and expected everyone to follow her exact vision. I noticed she began treating me more like an assistant than a sister, giving me last-minute tasks and acting frustrated when I didn't respond immediately to her texts. It started small, but I could feel her attitude growing more critical and demeaning. The breaking point came about a month ago during a family dinner where she wanted to announce the wedding guest list. She asked me to read it aloud, and I did. A few names were missing because I hadn't been informed about last-minute additions. Emma immediately snapped in front of our parents, my cousins, and her fiancé. She loudly called me incompetent, said I wasn't paying attention, and implied that I was trying to sabotage the wedding. My family tried to intervene, but she kept going, and I ended up in tears. After dinner, she continued texting me, accusing me of deliberately ruining her wedding plans and insisting I make up for it by taking over even more responsibilities. I was furious and hurt. I felt like she deliberately humiliated me to assert her control and make me feel guilty. I decided to step back and told her I wasn't comfortable being involved in the wedding planning anymore. I explained that her behavior during dinner had crossed a line, and I couldn't be part of a process that made me feel belittled. Emma did not take it well. She called me selfish, accused me of being jealous and unsupportive, and even told our parents that I was being unreasonable. Since then, our relationship has been strained. Emma has repeatedly tried to guilt me into helping, sending long messages about how much she needs me and how disappointed she is that her sister won't be there for her big day. She also shared some of these messages with my parents, who have expressed frustration at my refusal to support family. I tried to explain that supporting her doesn't mean I have to tolerate being publicly humiliated, but they don't fully understand and have suggested I reconsider for the sake of family unity. Adding to the tension, my other sister-in-law and some extended family members have taken him aside, saying I should just get over it and help her. A few friends of mine think I might be overreacting and that it's just a wedding, but honestly, it wasn't just about the guest list incident. It's a culmination of years of being made to feel inferior and overlooked, and the way she treated me in front of everyone was the final straw. I have offered to help in ways that don't involve direct interaction with her, like contributing financially to the wedding or helping with tasks she can delegate via email, but she rejects anything that isn't hands-on participation. I also considered attending the wedding as a guest, but the thought of being around her while she resents me makes me anxious and upset. Now, I'm being labeled as the problem in the family for refusing to fully participate in her wedding, and I can feel my guilt rising despite knowing I have legitimate reasons. I don't want to cause a permanent rift, but I also can't put myself in a situation where I might be humiliated again. I've tried to communicate calmly and set boundaries, but nothing seems to satisfy her, and I feel like I'm being painted as the villain. So, Reddit AITA for refusing to help my sister with her wedding after she publicly humiliated me? Or am I justified in protecting my mental health and setting boundaries, even if it disappoints her and other family members? If you enjoyed the video, don't forget to leave a like and subscribe to the channel. It helps the content grow and motivates me to create even more great videos. Turn on notifications so you don't miss any new uploads. By the way, I'm curious. When do you usually watch my videos? While working, studying, or just relaxing at home? Let me know in the comments. I'd love to hear from you. Thank you for your support. AITA for refusing to apologize to my sister after I canceled her birthday trip and told the truth about why. I am 31F. My sister Maya is 28F. Growing up, Maya was always the golden child. Not in an evil way. More like everyone just quietly adjusted around her feelings because it was easier. She cried easily, got overwhelmed easily, and my parents learned that smoothing things over for her kept the peace. I was the older one, so I was independent and resilient, which mostly meant I was expected to deal with things. Fast forward to adulthood. Maya and I are cordial but not close. We talk every couple of weeks, see each other at holidays, and that's about it. Last year, she went through a bad breakup and leaned on me more than usual. I listened to hours of venting, helped her move apartments, and even loaned her some money. I didn't mind at first. I figured she was struggling, and I could be supportive. In January, Maya asked if I would plan a long weekend trip with her for her birthday in June. She said she wanted it to be just the two of us, a sister bonding reset. I hesitated because planning trips stresses me out, but she promised she'd help and said it would mean a lot to her. I agreed. From the beginning, the planning was lopsided. I researched destinations, compared prices, booked the hotel, and made a rough itinerary. Every time I asked for her input, she'd say things like, "Whatever you think is best," or "I trust you." When I'd suggest something specific, she'd either take days to respond or say she wasn't sure. Still, I pushed through because I didn't want to disappoint her. Then the nitpicking started. She didn't like the hotel room layout. She didn't like that the flight was early. She didn't like that one of the restaurants I booked didn't have enough vegetarian options, even though she eats fish half the time. Each complaint came with, "I'm not trying to be difficult. I just want this to be perfect." About a month before the trip, my job announced unexpected layoffs. I wasn't laid off, but my workload doubled overnight, and my manager warned us that the next few months would be intense. I told Maya I might be more stressed and less flexible during the trip, and she said she understood. A week later, she called me crying because she had looked at Instagram and realized the city we chose was too boring compared to somewhere tropical. She asked if we could change everything. Flights, hotel, activities. When I said it would be expensive and stressful to redo, she accused me of not caring about her birthday. That was the first time I felt genuinely angry. The final straw came 2 weeks before the trip. I was on my lunch break when she sent me a long text listing everything she was anxious about. Sharing a room, my snoring, not having enough alone time, feeling like I'd be annoyed with her, worrying that she'd feel judged if she wanted to sleep in. She ended it with, "I don't want to be a burden, but I need you to reassure me." Something in me just snapped. I realized I was dreading the trip, not because of the destination, but because I knew I'd spend the entire weekend managing her emotions while ignoring my own stress. I called her and told her I didn't think the trip was a good idea anymore and that I wanted to cancel. She was silent for a moment, then furious. She said I was abandoning her, that I'd promised, that she'd already told people about the trip. I told her I'd refund her for any non-refundable costs, and that we could do a simple dinner instead. She said that wasn't the point and demanded to know the real reason. So I told her. I said I felt like I was always responsible for her feelings, that planning this trip had made me anxious and resentful, and that I didn't have the emotional capacity to be her caretaker right now. I said I loved her, but I needed boundaries. She hung up on me. Since then, my parents have gotten involved. They say I should apologize for how I delivered my feelings and that canceling so close to her birthday was cruel. They agree that Maya can be sensitive, but they say that's just how she is, and that as her sister I should accommodate her. Maya has texted me saying I ruined her birthday, embarrassed her, and made her feel unlovable. I feel awful that she's hurt, but I also feel relieved that the trip isn't happening. I don't think what I said was wrong, even if it wasn't pretty. I'm being pressured to apologize and fix this, but I don't want to take back what I said just to keep the peace again. AITA for canceling the trip and refusing to apologize for finally being honest. AITA for refusing to apologize after I exposed a family secret at my sister's engagement dinner. AITA, I honestly don't even know where to start because this whole thing spiraled so fast that my head is still spinning. I'm 32F. My sister Lily is 29F, and she recently got engaged to her boyfriend Mark, who is 35M. Our family has always been close in a loud, messy, opinionated way. We do big dinners, we talk over each other, and we also pretend certain topics don't exist because it's easier that way. Growing up, Lily was the golden child. She was charming, pretty, good at school, and always knew how to say the right thing. I was the practical one. I paid my own way through college, moved out early, and learned to handle problems head-on. That difference has always mattered more to our parents than they'd ever admit. About 6 years ago, Lily had a brief relationship with a married coworker. She was devastated when it ended and confided in me. I didn't approve, but I supported her emotionally and told her to end it, which she eventually did. What matters here is that our parents found out, and instead of addressing it, they swept it under the rug. The official family narrative became that Lily had been seeing someone complicated, and then it was never mentioned again. I was explicitly asked to never bring it up, especially around future partners, because it would ruin her reputation. Fast forward to now. Mark is a great guy, genuinely kind, generous, and very family-oriented. He adores Lily and has gone out of his way to include all of us. I like him, which is why this hurts so much. From the beginning, I noticed that Lily was carefully managing what he knew about her past. She framed herself as someone who had only been in long, serious relationships. No gray areas, no bad decisions, no mess. Last weekend, my parents hosted an engagement dinner. It was supposed to be a celebration with immediate family and a few close friends. Wine was flowing, everyone was emotional, and the conversation turned to relationships. Mark said something like, "I love how honest Lily is. She's always been upfront with me, even about hard things. No secrets." He said it with such certainty, like it was a core value he was proud of. I felt my stomach drop. I tried to let it go. I really did. But then my mother chimed in, saying she raised her daughters to be truthful and have strong moral compasses. Lily smiled and squeezed Mark's hand. It felt like I was watching a performance built on a lie that I had been carrying for years on her behalf. I made a joke at first, something light about how none of us are perfect and we all have skeletons. Lily shot me a look, a very clear stop look. Mark laughed and asked what I meant. My dad tried to redirect the conversation, but Mark pressed, still smiling, saying he thought it was healthy to talk about past mistakes. I don't know if it was the wine or years of resentment bubbling up, but something in me snapped. I said, calmly, "Well, Lily did have that affair with a married guy a few years back. That was a pretty big learning experience." The table went dead silent. Lily's face went white. My mom started crying immediately. My dad looked like he wanted the floor to swallow him. Mark just stared at Lily and asked if it was true. She didn't answer right away, and that was answer enough. The rest of the night was chaos. Mark left early, saying he needed air. Lily locked herself in the bathroom. My parents yelled at me in the kitchen, accusing me of ruining everything, of being jealous, of holding on to the past. I left before it got worse. Since then, Lily has called me screaming, sobbing, demanding I apologize to her and to Mark. She says it wasn't my story to tell and that people change. My parents have backed her completely and said I betrayed the family. They claim I should have protected her and that I intentionally humiliated her out of spite. Here's where I'm torn. On one hand, I get that it was not the ideal time or place. I know it caused real damage. On the other hand, Mark is about to marry her. He was praising her honesty while being kept in the dark about something that clearly conflicts with his values. I was tired of being complicit in a lie that everyone else benefited from while I carried the discomfort. Mark texted me 2 days later. He thanked me for telling the truth, even though it hurt. He said he and Lily are talking and trying to work through it, but he needed to know who he was marrying. That made me feel slightly less awful, but it didn't fix my relationship with my family. Now, everyone expects me to apologize so we can move on. I've said I'm sorry for the timing, but I refuse to apologize for telling the truth. That's not good enough for them. They want me to fully take the blame and admit I was wrong. So here I am, isolated from my family, watching my sister's engagement hang in the balance, and wondering if I really am the villain they're painting me to be. AITA? AITA for refusing to give my sister my house after she announced her pregnancy at my engagement dinner. I am 32F and recently got engaged to my partner of 6 years, Mark, who is 34M. We bought our house together 3 years ago after saving aggressively, skipping vacations, and working extra hours. It is not a mansion or anything fancy, but it is ours, and we love it. My sister Lily is 29F and has always had a more chaotic life path. She jumps between jobs, has moved apartments almost every year, and tends to rely heavily on family when things fall apart. I have helped her financially in the past with rent, car repairs, and even paid off a credit card once, which I never got back. My parents have always framed this as me being the responsible one and Lily being the free spirit who just needs a little extra support. Growing up, I was praised for being independent, which really meant I was expected to handle myself without help. Lily, on the other hand, was constantly rescued. I do not hate my sister, but I am tired. Still, when we decided to have an engagement dinner with close family, I was genuinely excited to celebrate together. We hosted at our house and cooked all day. I thought it would be a happy memory. Halfway through dessert, Lily stood up, clinked her glass, and announced she was pregnant. Everyone immediately erupted. My mom cried. My dad hugged her, and all attention shifted. I was surprised, but tried to smile and be supportive. Then Lily added that her boyfriend had left when he found out, and that she had no stable place to live once her lease ended in 2 months. The mood shifted from celebration to concern. My mom looked straight at me and Mark and said, "Well, at least you have space." At first, I assumed she meant temporarily letting Lily stay with us. I was not thrilled, but I could have handled a short-term arrangement with clear boundaries. But over the next few days, the story evolved. My parents started suggesting that Lily would be more comfortable raising a baby in a house instead of an apartment, that our place was in a good school district, and that since Mark and I could afford it, maybe we could rent a smaller place for ourselves for a while. My mom even said that once we had kids someday, we would understand the sacrifice. I finally sat everyone down and said no. I said Lily could not have our house, that Mark and I were not moving out, and that while I was willing to help her look for resources, contribute to first and last month rent, or help with baby supplies, I was not giving up my home. Lily started crying and said I was punishing her for getting pregnant, and that I was choosing a building over my own niece or nephew. My dad said I was being cold and selfish and reminded me that family helps family. Things escalated when Lily accused me of always thinking I was better than her because I had a stable relationship and career. That hurt because I have spent years downplaying my successes so she would not feel bad. Mark stepped in and said this conversation was inappropriate and that our home was not up for debate. My mom told him he did not understand because he was not blood. That was the moment I lost my patience and asked everyone to leave. Since then, my phone has been blowing up. Extended family members have reached out saying they heard I kicked my pregnant sister out and refused to help her. Some have said I am heartless. Others say I am just scared of responsibility. Lily posted vague messages online about betrayal and being abandoned when she needed family most. I feel awful, but also angry that my engagement has been completely overshadowed and reframed as some moral test I am apparently failing. I keep going back and forth in my head. I know pregnancy is a big deal, and I know Lily is scared. But I also feel like this is the natural consequence of years of not planning and assuming someone else will fix things. Mark is worried this will never end, that if we give in now, we will always be expected to sacrifice our stability for her emergencies. My parents have barely spoken to me since, except to say they are disappointed. I honestly do not know if I'm standing my ground in a healthy way or if I'm letting old resentment make me cruel. I am not refusing to help at all, just refusing to give up my home and derail my life plans. But the way everyone is reacting makes me feel like I have done something unforgivable. So, AITA for refusing to give my sister my house after she announced her pregnancy at my engagement dinner. AITA for refusing to give my sister my house after she decided my life was less important than hers. AITA for refusing to give my sister my house after she decided my life was less important than hers. I'm 34M, single, no kids. I've owned my house for 6 years. It's not a mansion, but it's a 3-bedroom place in a good school district because I originally bought it with the idea that I might someday have a family. Life didn't turn out that way, but I still love my home. I renovated it myself over several years, did most of the work on weekends, and it's the first thing I've ever felt truly proud of owning. My sister Emily is 37, married, with 3 kids under 10. She and her husband currently rent a smaller place about 40 minutes away. For years, they've complained about space, the commute, the schools, the landlord, basically everything. I've always listened, helped them move twice, babysat for free, and lent money when things were tight. I thought we were close. Last year, Emily and her husband made a series of bad financial decisions. They upgraded their car, took an expensive vacation, and then her husband quit his job without another one lined up because he hated the environment. They burned through savings fast. When their lease came up for renewal, their rent jumped and they panicked. That's when Emily started making comments about my house. At first, it was jokes like, "Must be nice having all that space for just one person," or "Those empty bedrooms are basically going to waste." I laughed it off. Then it escalated. One night at a family dinner, she said, in front of our parents, that it didn't make sense for me to live alone in a family-sized house when her kids were sharing rooms. She suggested that I sell her the house at family price and move into a condo or apartment. I said no politely and thought that was the end of it. It wasn't. Over the next few weeks, she kept pushing. She sent listings of small apartments, saying they'd be perfect for me. She asked what my real plan was since I wasn't married. She even suggested I could move back in with our parents temporarily. I told her clearly that I was not selling my house and that I didn't appreciate being pressured. Then came the blow-up. Emily called me crying one afternoon, saying they might be forced to move far away and uproot the kids. I felt bad, genuinely. I offered to help them look for places closer or to loan some money for the deposit. She snapped and said money wasn't the issue, space was, and that I was being selfish by hoarding a house meant for a family. I told her that hurt, and she said something that still rings in my ears, that my life was on hold anyway, and that her kids mattered more than my comfort. I lost it. I told her that my life isn't a placeholder, that just because I'm single doesn't mean I don't deserve stability, and that I worked for what I have. I said I was done discussing my house. After that, she went to our parents. My parents called me and said they understood my point, but asked me to think about the bigger picture. They said families make sacrifices and that I could always buy another place later. When I said no again, my mom started crying and said she never thought I'd be the kind of person who'd turn his back on his nieces and nephews. Now, the family dynamic is awful. Emily barely speaks to me except to send passive-aggressive messages about the kids being stressed. My parents are distant. A few relatives have reached out to say they don't understand why I'm being so stubborn when I don't even need the space. I don't think owning something I worked for and wanting to keep it makes me a villain. I didn't cause their situation. I try to help in other ways. But everyone is acting like I'm stealing from children by existing in my own home. I'm starting to wonder if I'm missing something or if I'm being guilted because I'm the easiest target. So AITA for refusing to give up my house, even knowing it would solve my sister's problems? AITA for refusing to attend my sister's wedding after she reassigned my role without telling me? AITA for refusing to attend my younger sister's wedding after she quietly reassigned my role and expected me to be fine with it? I'm 32F. My sister Lily is 29F. We've always had a complicated relationship. Not explosive, not dramatic, just quietly competitive in a way no one ever talks about. Growing up, she was the golden child, more outgoing, more agreeable, the one teachers and relatives adored. I was the dependable one, the planner, the one who remembered birthdays, handled logistics, and cleaned up messes. It took me years to realize that being reliable in my family often meant being taken for granted. When Lily got engaged last year, she asked me to be her maid of honor. I was honestly surprised and touched. We'd never been especially close, but I thought maybe this was a chance to reset things as adults. I said yes immediately. From that moment on, I threw myself into the role. I helped her research venues, went to tastings, coordinated with vendors, and fielded group chat chaos from the bridal party. I planned her bachelorette weekend, paid up front for a lot of it, and spent countless evenings on the phone reassuring her whenever she spiraled about colors, seating charts, or her future in general. About 3 months ago, things started to feel off. Lily became distant, less responsive. She stopped asking my opinion and started making decisions without looping me in. I assumed she was stressed and gave her space. Then, 2 weeks ago, I got an email from her wedding planner with the finalized ceremony lineup. I wasn't listed as maid of honor. I was listed as bridesmaid family. The maid of honor was her college roommate, Jess, who had joined the planning late and, from what I could tell, hadn't done much beyond hype Lily up on Instagram. At first, I thought it was a mistake. I texted Lily, lightheartedly, asking if the planner had mixed something up. She didn't respond for a full day. When she finally called me, she sounded rehearsed. She said she didn't want to make a big deal out of it, but she felt Jess was a better fit for the maid of honor role because she was more fun and had a calmer energy. She said I was still incredibly important, obviously, and that titles didn't really matter. She said she assumed I'd understand. I didn't understand. I felt blindsided and embarrassed. I asked why she didn't talk to me first. She said she didn't want to hurt my feelings and hoped I'd just go along with it. I told her my feelings were already hurt and that it wasn't about the title. It was about being quietly demoted after months of unpaid labor and emotional support. She got defensive and said I was making her wedding about me. She also pointed out that family should be flexible and supportive, especially during stressful times. I took a few days to cool off, but the more I thought about it, the worse I felt. I realized that this was a pattern. I step up, I carry weight, and when it's time for appreciation or acknowledgement, I'm expected to shrink gracefully. I called Lily back and told her I needed to step away from the wedding entirely. I said I loved her, but I couldn't pretend everything was fine and smile through a ceremony where I felt disposable. I said attending would make me resentful, and I didn't want that memory attached to her wedding day. All hell broke loose. My parents call me dramatic and selfish. My mom said I was punishing Lily for a harmless decision. My dad said weddings aren't about siblings, they're about the couple. Lily sent me a long message saying I was abandoning her, that people would ask questions, and that I was embarrassing her. She also reminded me of all the money she assumed I'd still be contributing, especially since things were already booked. I stood my ground. I said I wouldn't attend, and I wouldn't be paying for anything else. I offered to transfer the planning documents and vendor contacts to whoever needed them. I even said I'd send a gift. That somehow made things worse. Lily accused me of being cold and transactional. Jess messaged me privately, saying she didn't ask for this and that I was making everyone uncomfortable by overreacting. Extended family members started weighing in, telling me I'd regret missing my sister's big day over something so small. Now the wedding is a month away, and I'm still not going. Part of me feels relieved. Another part of me feels sick with guilt and doubt. I keep wondering if I should have just swallowed it and shown up, because that's what I've always done. But another voice in my head says that if I go, I'm teaching everyone that my feelings are optional. So AITA for refusing to attend my sister's wedding after being quietly replaced and expected to be okay with it? AITA for refusing to attend my sister's wedding after she reassigned my role at the last minute and told me I was being selfish for being upset? I am 32F and my younger sister is 29F. Growing up, we were close in the way siblings are when there is just the two of you. We fought, we made up, we shared a room until I left for college, and for most of our adult lives we talked at least once a week. When she got engaged last year, she asked me to be her maid of honor. I cried, said yes immediately, and genuinely meant it. I was excited for her and took the role seriously. Over the next year, I helped with everything. I went dress shopping with her multiple times. I helped her narrow down venues. I hosted the engagement party at my apartment and paid for most of the food. I organized the bachelorette weekend, which meant coordinating 6 different schedules, booking an Airbnb, fronting the deposit, and making sure everyone paid me back. I took time off work to help with wedding errands. At no point did she tell me I was overstepping or doing too much. She thanked me often and told people how lucky she was to have me. About 3 months before the wedding, things started to feel off. She became short with me, would take days to respond to messages, and corrected me in front of others. I chalked it up to stress. Weddings are stressful, and I try not to take it personally. Then her best friend from college moved back into town. They had drifted apart over the years, but suddenly this friend was everywhere. At first I didn't mind. Then I noticed my sister stopped including me in decisions I was previously part of. 2 weeks before the wedding, she asked me to meet her for coffee. I assumed it was to go over last-minute details. Instead, she told me she had decided to make her college friend the maid of honor and asked me to be a regular bridesmaid instead. She said she needed someone who was more emotionally available on the wedding day and that I sometimes made things about myself without realizing it. I was stunned. I asked her what she meant, and she gave vague examples like me being too practical and not matching her energy. I reminded her of everything I had done over the past year. She said she appreciated it, but that this was her wedding and she had to do what felt right for her. She also said she assumed I would understand because I'm older and more mature. I tried to keep it together, but I did cry. I told her it felt hurtful to be demoted so close to the wedding and that it made me feel disposable. She got defensive and said I was proving her point by reacting emotionally and that if I truly loved her, I would support her decision without making it about me. I went home and sat with it for a few days. The more I thought about it, the more hurt I felt. It wasn't just a role change. It was the way she framed it, the timing, and the implication that I was somehow lacking after years showing up for her. I texted her and told her I needed some space and wasn't sure I could attend the wedding feeling this upset. That's when things blew up. She called me crying and angry, saying I was abandoning her and threatening to ruin her wedding over my ego. Our parents got involved. My mom said I should just go, smile, and deal with it later. My dad said my sister was being harsh, but that weddings make people act weird and I shouldn't miss such an important day. I told them all that I didn't feel welcome anymore and that standing there pretending everything was fine felt dishonest. I also said I felt used. My sister then sent a long message saying I was punishing her for setting a boundary and that I had always secretly resented her, and this was proof. I ultimately decided not to attend. I sent a gift and a short note wishing her well. The wedding happened last weekend. I've since been unfollowed by several relatives on social media, and my sister hasn't spoken to me. Some friends think I was right to protect myself. Others think I should have sucked it up for one day and dealt with it. Privately later, I keep going back and forth. I know it was her wedding and her choice, but I also feel like my feelings were completely dismissed. AITA for not going to the wedding after being removed as maid of honor. AITA for refusing to attend my sister's wedding after she reassigned a role she promised me and then told our family I was being dramatic. I'm the oldest of 3 siblings, 32F. My sister Lily is 28F and getting married in a few months. Growing up, Lily and I were close in that complicated, competitive way sisters can be. Our parents divorced when we were teens, and I took on a lot of responsibility early. I helped with rides, homework, college applications, emotional support, all of it. Lily has always said I was more of a second parent than a sister to her. And while that was never my intention, it's the dynamic we fell into. When Lily got engaged last year, she asked me to be her maid of honor. I was genuinely touched. I've been married for 5 years, have a demanding job, and no kids yet, but I was ready to show up for her. We talked a lot about what that role meant to her. She said she wanted me by her side because I knew her best, because I was steady, and because she trusted me. I made space in my schedule, budgeted for expenses, and started helping immediately. Over the next several months, I helped plan the bachelorette weekend, went dress shopping multiple times, mediated arguments with bridesmaids, and handled a lot of behind-the-scenes stress so Lily wouldn't have to. I paid for things up front with the understanding I'd be paid back later. I listened to her vent about her fiancé, her in-laws, and our mom. I never complained, even when it was overwhelming, because I believed I was doing this out of love and because she had asked me. About 3 months ago, Lily started getting distant. She stopped replying to messages as quickly and began making decisions without looping me in. I chalked it up to wedding stress. Then, about 6 weeks ago, she invited me to coffee and told me she had decided to make her childhood best friend, Megan, the maid of honor instead. She said Megan was more fun, less anxious, and had more time to party and be spontaneous. She said I was still important and could be a bridesmaid, and that she hoped I'd understand. I was shocked. I didn't yell or cry in a cafe, but I did tell her I was hurt. I asked why she hadn't talked to me sooner and why she'd let me take on so much responsibility if she was having doubts. She said she didn't think it would matter this much, and that titles shouldn't change our relationship. She also said I sometimes made her feel like a child, and that Megan made her feel carefree. That stung, especially given how much I've supported her over the years. After that conversation, I tried to process my feelings privately. I told Lily I needed some space to decide what I could emotionally handle. A few days later, I found out from our mom that Lily had told the family I was stepping back because I'm stressed and controlling. That narrative spread quickly. Relatives started texting me about how weddings are about the bride and how I should be more flexible. No one asked what actually happened. Then Lily sent me a long message saying she was hurt that I wasn't being supportive anymore and that my distance was making things awkward. She asked me to still help with logistics, give a speech if Megan got overwhelmed, and keep things smooth with our mom. Essentially, she wanted me to do the work of maid of honor without the role, while also swallowing my feelings quietly. That was my breaking point. I told her I loved her, but I couldn't continue in the wedding party at all. I said I would attend as a guest if I felt ready, but I wasn't sure yet. I explained that being demoted wasn't the only issue, but the lack of communication and the way she'd framed me to the family. She replied that I was making her wedding about myself, and that if I didn't come, she'd never forget it. Now the situation has exploded. My mom says I should just apologize and go, because family comes first and people will talk. My dad says Lily handled it poorly but thinks skipping the wedding will cause permanent damage. Lily hasn't spoken to me directly since, but I've heard through others that she's saying I abandoned her and ruined what should be the happiest time of her life. I feel torn. Part of me thinks I should suck it up, go, smile, and deal with my feelings later. Another part of me feels deeply disrespected and used, and I don't want to sit through a ceremony feeling invisible and resentful. I don't want to punish Lily, but I also don't want to teach her that she can disregard my feelings without consequences. So, AITA for refusing to attend my sister's wedding after she replaced me as maid of honor and told the family I was being controlling? Hey friends, if you enjoy this content, don't forget to like the video and share your thoughts in the comments. We really want to know what you like and what could be improved. What do you think of the video? Are there any topics you'd like to see in future videos? Your feedback really helps us get better. Thanks for being with us. AITA for refusing to attend my sister's wedding after she reassigned my role without telling me. I'm 32F. My younger sister, Lena, is 28F and getting married this spring. We've always had a complicated relationship. Not explosive or dramatic, just quietly competitive. Growing up, she was the golden child and I was the reliable one. I was the kid who showed up, followed rules, helped out, and didn't cause trouble. She was charming, emotional, and needed extra attention. Our parents still don't see the difference, but I've felt it my whole life. When Lena got engaged last year, she asked me to be her maid of honor. I was surprised because we aren't particularly close as adults, but I said yes. I genuinely wanted to support her, and I figured this could be a way to reconnect. From the start, I took the role seriously. I helped with vendor research, went to dress appointments, organized her bachelorette weekend, and acted as the point person for the bridal party. I also covered a lot of costs up front because she was stressed about money and promised to pay me back later. Things started getting weird about 4 months ago. Lena became distant and snappy. She'd ignore my messages for days and then suddenly send long texts about how overwhelmed she was and how no one was helping her. When I gently pointed out that I was doing most of the planning, she'd say I was making it about myself or that I was being controlling. I backed off a bit and tried to give her space. 2 months ago, my mom casually mentioned that Lena was thinking of making her childhood best friend, Maya, the maid of honor instead, because Maya was more emotional and understood her better. I was hurt, but assumed Lena would talk to me directly if that was the case. She didn't. I asked her about it, and she said I was overthinking and that nothing was changing. Fast forward to last weekend. I went to my parents' house for a family dinner. There were place cards on the table for fun, because my mom likes to be extra. Mine said bridesmaid. I laughed awkwardly and thought it was a joke. Then Lena announced to everyone that Maya was officially her maid of honor and thanked me for stepping back gracefully and still being part of the wedding party. I was blindsided. This was the first time she had said this clearly and publicly. I felt humiliated. Everyone looked at me like I was supposed to smile and nod. I didn't want to cause a scene, so I excused myself and went outside to calm down. Later that night, I confronted Lena privately. I told her I was hurt that she didn't talk to me and that I had put in months of work and money under the assumption that I was maid of honor. She told me I was being dramatic and that titles don't matter. She said Maya needed the role more because she's fragile and that I'm strong and independent, so I should understand. She also said I should be happy to support her in any way because this day isn't about me. I asked about the money I spent, and she said we'd figure it out later and accused me of keeping score. That was kind of the breaking point for me. I realized this wasn't about a title. It was about respect. I went home and thought about it for a couple of days. The more I thought, the more upset I became. I felt used, dismissed, and taken for granted, the same way I always have in my family. I decided that I didn't want to be part of the wedding at all. I texted Lena and told her I was stepping down as a bridesmaid and wouldn't be attending the wedding. I said I needed distance and that this situation had hurt me deeply. All hell broke loose. Lena called me sobbing, saying I was ruining her wedding and abandoning her. My parents called and said I was being petty, that weddings are stressful, and that I should just let it go for the sake of family harmony. My dad said I should be proud that Lena trusts me enough to not need me as maid of honor. My mom said I was punishing everyone over a misunderstanding. Maya messaged me too, saying she felt uncomfortable and that she never wanted to replace me, but also that Lena really needs her right now. That somehow made me feel worse, like I was expected to swallow my feelings so everyone else could be comfortable. I stood my ground. I said I was willing to have a relationship with Lena outside of the wedding, but I wouldn't attend an event where I felt disrespected and erased. I also asked again about being reimbursed for the expenses I covered. That request was met with silence. Now the wedding is 2 months away and the family is divided. Some relatives think I'm justified and that Lena handled everything badly. Others think I'm selfish for making her wedding about me and that I'll regret missing it. I'm starting to doubt myself, especially because I know weddings bring out the worst in people and maybe I should have just sucked it up. AITA for refusing to attend my sister's wedding after she reassigned my role without telling me. AITA for refusing to attend my sister's wedding after she asked me to hide my career and lie to her future in-laws. I am 32F, single, and work as a tattoo artist. I own half of a small studio with a friend, pay my bills on time, have health insurance, and generally feel proud of the life I built after a pretty chaotic 20s. My family, however, has always treated my job like a phase or an embarrassment. They are polite to my face, but introduce me as someone who does art or works at a shop, never as a tattoo artist. I learned to pick my battles, so I usually let slide. My younger sister, 28F, is getting married in a few months. She is very type A, very polished, and marrying into what she calls a respectable family. Her future in-laws are wealthy, conservative, and extremely image-focused. Think country club, formal dinners, and lots of comments about how things look. From the moment she got engaged, my sister has been stressed about appearances. About 3 weeks ago, she invited me over to help address wedding invitations. Halfway through, she said she needed to talk to me about something important. She told me that her future in-laws had asked a lot of questions about me and our family. Apparently, they were curious about what I do for a living and why I'm not married yet. She laughed it off while telling me, but I could tell she was nervous. Then she said that for the wedding weekend, it would be better if I dressed more neutral and cover my tattoos. I have several visible tattoos on my arms and one on my neck. Covering them would require heavy makeup and high collars. I asked why, and she said she wanted everything to look elegant in photos and did not want to distract from the aesthetic. That already stung, but then she added that if her in-laws asked what I do, she would prefer if I said I work in graphic design or something similar. I told her I was not comfortable lying about my job. She said it was not really lying, just simplifying. I said it felt like erasing a huge part of who I am. She got frustrated and said I was making this about me when it was her wedding. She said I could do this one small thing for her and that it was only for a weekend. I asked her why she was so worried about what her in-laws thought of me. She admitted that they had made comments about people with tattoos being unprofessional and irresponsible. She said she did not agree with them, but did not want to rock the boat right before the wedding. She also said that once they got to know me, it would be fine, but first impressions mattered. At that point, I felt humiliated. I told her that asking me to hide and lie was not a small thing. It made me feel like a dirty secret. She started crying and said I was ruining her special time and adding stress when she was already overwhelmed. She accused me of being selfish and stubborn and said that if I really loved her, I would do this for her happiness. I went home and thought about it for a few days. The more I thought, the worse I felt. I imagined standing there all weekend, uncomfortable, covered up, dodging questions, pretending to be someone else so strangers would approve of me. I realized I would be miserable and resentful, and that would probably leak out anyway. I called my sister and told her I loved her, but I could not agree to hide my tattoos or lie about my job. I said I would still come to the wedding if I could be myself, dress appropriately, but honestly, and answer questions truthfully. If that was not acceptable, I would rather not attend than cause tension. She exploded. She said I was choosing my pride over her, that everyone makes compromises for weddings, and that I was being dramatic. She told our parents, who called me, and said I should just go along with it to keep the peace. My mom said family sometimes means swallowing your feelings. My dad said people judge, and I should not make things harder for my sister. Now the situation is that my sister told me not to come unless I agree to her conditions. I said I would respect that and stay home. She then told extended family that I am boycotting her wedding to make a point, and I have started getting messages saying I am cruel, immature, and trying to punish her. I feel torn. I love my sister and do not want to hurt her, but I also feel like attending under those rules would hurt me and reinforce the idea that I am somehow lesser. At the same time, this is her wedding, and I know she is under pressure and wants everything perfect. So AITA for refusing to attend my sister's wedding because I will not hide my tattoos and lie about my career to please her future in-laws. AITA for refusing to apologize to my sister after I exposed the truth about her emergency at my wedding. AITA for this. I'm still getting messages weeks later, and I genuinely don't know if I cross a line or if people are just uncomfortable with what I revealed. I'm 32F, and I got married 3 months ago to my partner of 6 years. The wedding was small, but carefully planned. We paid for almost everything ourselves and chose to keep it intimate, around 60 guests, mostly close family and friends. My older sister, Lena, is 35F. Growing up, Lena was always the crisis generator in our family. There was always something wrong with her job, her relationship, her health, or her finances, and somehow it always peaked during events that weren't about her. Birthdays, graduations, holidays, you name it. Our parents normalized this by rushing to her side every time and telling the rest of us to be patient, because Lena felt things deeply. In the 2 years leading up to my wedding, Lena went through a breakup, changed careers twice, and moved back in with our parents. I tried to be supportive, but I also set boundaries. I told her clearly that on my wedding day, I needed things to be calm and drama-free. She laughed and said I was being paranoid. On the day of the wedding, everything was going perfectly until about an hour into the reception. I noticed my mom was missing from the dance floor, then my dad, then several relatives. I found out Lena was in the bridal suite crying, saying she was having a panic attack and felt like she was being abandoned by the family. This was confusing because the entire family had been focused on her for months, and she had been included in everything. My parents asked me to step away from my own reception to talk to her. I said no. I said if she needed help, she should step outside with a friend or call a professional. My mom accused me of being cold. Eventually, I went anyway, mostly to stop the bleeding. When I walked in, Lena was lying on the couch, scrolling on her phone with dramatic tears. She immediately started sobbing louder when she saw me and said I didn't care about her mental health. Something in me snapped. I asked her, calmly at first, what exactly triggered this panic attack. She couldn't answer. She just kept repeating that everyone was choosing me over her. I said, in front of my parents and 2 cousins, that this was my wedding, not a competition, and that she had done this exact thing at my college graduation and at our cousin's engagement party. She told me I was attacking her. I then said that if this was a real emergency, we should call an ambulance, because panic attacks can be serious. She immediately sat up and said that wasn't necessary. That's when I said the thing people are mad about. I said, you're not having a panic attack. You're having a tantrum because you aren't the center of attention, and I'm done rearranging my life to manage your feelings. The room went silent. Lena started screaming that I was abusive and stormed out of the venue. My parents followed her. They missed the rest of the reception. Several guests noticed, and it was obvious something had happened. I tried to shake it off and enjoy the night, but it hurt. The next day, my parents told me I owed Lena an apology for humiliating her during a mental health crisis. I refused. I said I would apologize for my tone if needed, but not for what I said. I also said that it wasn't fair that my wedding turned into another Lena emergency. My parents said I was selfish and that weddings don't give you permission to invalidate someone's mental health. Since then, the family has split. Some relatives quietly told me they were relieved someone finally said something. Others think I'm cruel and that I should have handled it privately. Lena has posted vague things online about cutting toxic people out of her life. She has not spoken to me directly, but she told our parents she won't attend any event where I'm present unless I apologize publicly. I feel guilty sometimes, mostly because I know panic attacks are real and serious. But I also feel like if I had stayed silent, this pattern would never end. My wedding was supposed to be one day that wasn't about managing her emotions, and instead it became another example of the family choosing to protect Lena from consequences. So, AITA for refusing to apologize and for calling her out the way I did on my wedding day, in front of other people. AITA for refusing to attend my sister's wedding after she reassigned my role at the last minute. I am 31F. My sister Lena is 29F. We grew up very close, partly because our parents worked a lot and we were each other's default support system. When Lena got engaged last year, she asked me to be her maid of honor. I was genuinely touched. I helped her through a rough breakup years ago, and she said she couldn't imagine anyone else standing next to her. I accepted immediately and told her I'd do whatever she needed. Over the next 10 months, I did exactly that. I helped tour venues, address invitations, plan the bachelorette weekend, and even learned how to do simple floral arrangements to cut costs. I took time off work to go dress shopping with her and paid for my own dress, shoes, hair, makeup, and hotel without complaint. I also helped smooth things over with our mom, who tends to micromanage and stress Lena out. I thought this was just what you do when you love someone. About 3 months ago, Lena started getting distant. She stopped responding to messages for days, then apologized and said she was overwhelmed. I didn't push. Wedding planning is stressful, and I figured she needed space. While I did hear from her, the tone felt more formal, less sisterly. Still, I kept helping where I could. 2 weeks before the wedding, Lena asked if we could talk privately. We met for coffee, and she looked nervous. She told me she had been thinking a lot and decided to make her future sister-in-law, Maya, the maid of honor instead. Maya has only been in the family for about a year, but Lena said they had really bonded and that Maya fit the wedding aesthetic better and was more outgoing. Lena said she still wanted me in the wedding party as a regular bridesmaid and hoped I'd understand. I was shocked. I asked if I had done something wrong. Lena said no, not exactly, but that Maya had more experience giving speeches and hyping up a crowd. I reminded her that she had already asked me, that I'd put in months of work and money, and that changing this so close to the wedding felt hurtful. She said she didn't think it was a big deal and that titles shouldn't matter since we're sisters. I went home and cried. It wasn't about the title so much as feeling replaced and sidelined after investing so much. The next day, Lena texted me a long message saying she hoped I wasn't mad and that she still expected me to help keep things running smoothly on the wedding day since I know everything already. That part stung. It felt like she wanted the labor without the role. I told her I needed some time to think. Over the next week, I tried to process my feelings, but every time I thought about standing in the crowd while someone else gave a speech I'd already written, I felt sick. I also found out through our cousin that Maya had told people she was always meant to be the maid of honor, and that Lena had just been too nice to tell me sooner. I don't know if that's true, but it made everything worse. 1 week before the wedding, I called Lena and told her I couldn't attend. I said I loved her, but was too hurt and didn't trust myself not to cry or cause a scene. I thought removing myself entirely was better than half showing up with resentment. Lena went silent, then accused me of making her wedding about myself. She said I was abandoning her when she needed me most, and that family should be able to handle disappointment. Our parents got involved immediately. My mom said I was being dramatic and that weddings are stressful and I should be the bigger person. My dad said he understood why I was hurt, but still thought I should go to keep the peace. Lena sent me a final message saying she never expected this from me and that I had ruined what should have been a happy time. I didn't go. On the wedding day, I stayed home, turned off my phone, and tried not to think about it. I later saw photos online. Maya looked thrilled, Lena looked beautiful, and everyone seemed happy. Part of me felt relieved. I wasn't there pretending everything was fine. Another part of me feels like I crossed a line and permanently damaged my relationship with my sister. Since then, communication has been minimal. Lena responds politely but coldly. Extended family treats me like I'm fragile or selfish, depending on the person. I keep replaying everything in my head, wondering if I should have swallowed my feelings and gone anyway, or if setting a boundary was the right call. I didn't want to punish her, but I also didn't want to stand there feeling invisible. So, AITA for refusing to attend my sister's wedding after she changed my role at the last minute. AITA for refusing to apologize to my sister after I canceled her wedding cake order 2 weeks before the ceremony. I am 29F and my sister is 32F. For most of our lives, I have been the reliable one and she has been the dreamer. That dynamic worked fine when we were kids, but as adults it has turned into me being expected to quietly fix things when her plans fall apart. I run a small home bakery. It started as a side hustle and grew into a real business over the last 4 years. I do custom cakes, mostly weddings and events, and I am booked months in advance. When my sister got engaged last year, she immediately announced that I would be making her wedding cake. She did this at a family dinner without asking me first. Everyone clapped, my mom teared up, and I felt trapped. Later that night, I told her I would love to make the cake, but we needed to talk details like flavor, size, and payment because this was my job. She rolled her eyes and said, "You're not going to charge your own sister." I said we would discuss it later. Over the next several months, I tried to get information from her. Guest count kept changing. 1 week it was 80 people, then 120, then maybe 150 if some coworkers come. She sent me photos from Pinterest that contradicted each other and wanted a 3-tier minimalist cake and also a dramatic sculpted design with sugar flowers that would take days. Every time I asked for a final decision, she said I was stressing her out and ruining the fun. 2 months ago, I told her clearly that I needed final specs and at least partial payment by a certain date or I would not be able to do the cake. She laughed and said I was being dramatic. My mom called me later and told me to be the bigger person because weddings are stressful. Here is the part that pushed me over the edge. I found out through Instagram that my sister had hired a well-known photographer and paid a huge deposit. When I asked her about it, she said, "Photography is important. Cake is just cake." That stung more than I expected. I felt like my work was being dismissed as a hobby, even though it is how I pay my bills. 2 weeks before the wedding, I still had no final guest count, no design confirmation, and no payment. I had already turned down another wedding for that date, assuming I was doing hers. I sent her a message saying that because I had not received what we agreed on, I would not be able to make her cake, and she should book a bakery immediately. She exploded. She called me screaming, crying, saying I was sabotaging her wedding out of jealousy and that everyone would know I ruined her big day. My parents are furious with me. They say family should come before business, and that I could have just made something simple. They also said I embarrassed them because now relatives are asking why I'm not doing the cake. My sister did find another bakery, but it cost her more than she expected, and the design is simpler than what she wanted. Now everyone wants me to apologize. They say I should say sorry for the timing and for making it about money. I do feel bad that she was stressed and that the situation blew up so close to the wedding. At the same time, I feel like if I give in now, I am teaching my family that my boundaries do not matter and that my work is not real unless it benefits them for free. I have not spoken to my sister since the argument. Part of me misses her, and part of me is just tired. I keep replaying everything and wondering if I should have just sucked it up and baked the cake to keep the peace. AITA? AITA for refusing to attend my sister's wedding because of her fiancé's behavior? I, 28F, have always had a complicated relationship with my sister, Emily, 31F. Growing up, we were close in spurts but often clashed over trivial things, shared clothes, friends, and even family vacations. Despite that, I've always tried to support her, especially when she's gone through tough times. Recently, she got engaged to a man named Jason, 33M, and from the start, I've had serious reservations about him. I first met Jason at her birthday party last year. He seemed charming on the surface, funny, articulate, and confident, but there were subtle things that made me uneasy. He would interrupt people mid-sentence, often make jokes at other people's expense, and there were a few comments that felt dismissive or condescending toward me and my partner, Tom, 29M. I brushed it off initially, thinking maybe I was reading too much into it, or perhaps he was just socially awkward. Over time, Emily became increasingly involved with Jason. She seemed genuinely happy, and she assured me multiple times that he was a good person who loved her. I tried to set aside my doubts because I didn't want to interfere in her relationship. Still, over the past year, Jason's behavior has only become more problematic. The first major red flag for me was when he criticized my career choices. I work in a creative field, and I recently started a small business that I'm really passionate about. At a family dinner, Jason asked what I did, and when I explained, he laughed and said, "That's cute. Are you planning to grow up someday?" I was shocked, but Emily laughed it off and told me I was being too sensitive. Tom, who witnessed it, tried to defend me, and Jason brushed him off too. Another incident occurred at Emily and Jason's joint birthday party for friends. Jason took it upon himself to rearrange the seating I had carefully planned, then mocked my attempts to explain why I organized it that way. Later, he kept making jokes about how uptight I was. By that point, I began keeping my interactions with him minimal, though I still attended family events because I wanted to maintain peace. The biggest turning point came last month when Emily asked me to help with the wedding planning. I was initially excited and said yes, but the more I interacted with Jason during these planning sessions, the more I felt uncomfortable. He would belittle the choices I suggested, insist on things his way, and make passive-aggressive comments about Emily's family. For example, when I suggested a particular caterer that had worked for us before, he said, "Are we really going to trust amateurs with this? I don't know why people settle for mediocrity." Emily seemed irritated when I expressed concern, but said she didn't want to start drama. A week ago, things came to a head. I was helping Emily and Jason finalize the guest list, and Jason openly criticized several of my friends, calling them weird or uninteresting. When I asked him to stop, he laughed and said, "I'm just being honest. If they're your friends, that's on you." Emily rolled her eyes at me, saying I was overreacting. I realized that despite her assurances, she doesn't see or acknowledge the way he treats people, including her own family. After that, I had a long talk with Tom. We both felt that Jason's behavior wasn't just annoying, it was toxic and could escalate. We discussed whether I could go to the wedding without supporting him. I tried considering options like attending for a short time, skipping the reception, or keeping my distance, but every scenario still meant I'd be in a space where I felt disrespected and dismissed. I finally decided to tell Emily that I wouldn't be attending the wedding. I tried to frame it in terms of my feelings rather than attacking Jason directly. I said something like, "I care about you a lot, and I want the best for you, but I don't feel comfortable being around Jason. I hope you can understand that. This is about my boundaries and not a reflection of my feelings for you." Her response was worse than I expected. She was furious and accused me of choosing to be cruel and trying to ruin her special day. She said she couldn't believe I would let my perception of her fiancé stop me from celebrating with her. She also told other family members, and now they are all pressuring me to attend, calling me selfish and dramatic. Some are even suggesting that I must have a personal grudge against Jason. Emily has told me that if I don't attend, our relationship might suffer permanently, which genuinely scares me because I do care about her deeply. Tom supports my decision entirely and has even offered to help me deal with the fallout from family drama. A few close friends have told me they agree with my choice, saying that standing up for my boundaries is valid. But other family members are relentless, and Emily herself is refusing to talk to me. I feel trapped because I want to respect myself and avoid being in an uncomfortable and potentially toxic environment. But at the same time, I don't want to hurt my sister or create a permanent rift. So, Reddit AITA for refusing to attend my sister's wedding because of her fiancé's behavior. I keep thinking about all the memories we've shared and the bond we've had, and I hate the idea that my choice could damage that. At the same time, I can't ignore how disrespectful Jason has been, and I feel like attending would make me complicit in tolerating his behavior. I'm open to hearing different perspectives because I really am torn. Is it selfish to protect myself, even if it means missing one of the most important days in my sister's life? Or is it reasonable to prioritize my mental health and boundaries over social expectations? I haven't spoken to Emily since our argument, and every time I think about the wedding, I feel a mix of guilt, anxiety, and frustration. I want to do the right thing, but I'm not sure what that looks like in this situation. AITA for refusing to let my brother's family stay at my house, even though they needed a place to stay. I, 32F, have always been independent and very particular about my living space. I live alone in a small but comfortable 2-bedroom apartment. I value my privacy immensely, and I've structured my life so that my home is my sanctuary. My younger brother, Jake, 28M, has always been a bit more chaotic in his life. He's been in and out of jobs over the past few years, and he has 2 kids, ages 6 and 3, with his wife, Lisa, 27F. My relationship with Jake has always been fine. We're not best friends, but we get along. I've always been willing to help him out when needed, but I have limits. A few weeks ago, Jake called me in a panic. Apparently, his landlord decided not to renew their lease, and they had less than a week to move out. He said he and Lisa had been looking for a new place, but everything was either too expensive or unavailable. He asked if they could stay at my apartment temporarily until they figured something out. I immediately hesitated. I explained that my apartment was small and that it really wasn't equipped to house 4 extra people, even temporarily. My bedrooms are tiny. The kitchen barely fits 2 people comfortably, and I work from home full-time. Having his family stay with me would completely disrupt my life. I suggested some alternatives, like staying in a short-term rental or even a local hotel until they found a place. Jake got defensive. He said that I was being selfish and that families should help each other out in times of need. I tried to reason with him, saying that helping didn't have to mean literally living together. I offered to babysit for a few hours a week or help them with the deposit on a new place. He said that wasn't enough and that they really had nowhere else to go. I asked if they had considered any friends, extended family, or even emergency housing programs. He said yes, but nothing worked out, so my apartment was their last option. I told them that I couldn't host them. I explained again that my apartment is very small, that I work from home, and that I have routines that I cannot compromise. I even mentioned that having kids in the space would be extremely challenging because there's no yard, no play area, and not enough beds. He got really upset and said that I was prioritizing my comfort over my family. I reminded him that I could still help in ways that didn't involve them living with me, but he wasn't hearing it. A few days later, Lisa called me and tried a different approach. She said that I didn't understand how stressful it was to suddenly have nowhere to live and that I would regret it if something bad happened to the kids while they were homeless. I explained again that they were not homeless. They had a week to secure temporary housing and that there were resources available. I suggested that I could help them look online for short-term rentals, but I would not be opening my apartment to them. She said that was cold and cruel. The tension escalated when Jake showed up at my apartment unannounced one evening, insisting that they needed to see the space to decide if it would work. I told him firmly that he was not welcome to bring his family over and that showing up uninvited was not acceptable. He left angrily, saying that I was destroying our family relationship over stubbornness. Since then, our communication has been minimal. Jake has been posting passive-aggressive comments on social media about people who refuse to help family in need, and Lisa has texted me a few times with guilt-tripping messages. My parents are aware of the situation, and their stance is neutral. They understand my perspective, but are also sympathetic to Jake's predicament. I feel conflicted. On one hand, I know that my brother and his kids are in a tough spot. On the other hand, my apartment simply cannot accommodate them, and hosting them would be disruptive and stressful for me. I've tried to offer help in other ways, like assisting with deposits, babysitting, or helping them find a temporary rental, but Jake and Lisa see it as insufficient. I haven't changed my mind about not letting them stay here, but the constant guilt-tripping and pressure from them, and even some extended family, is wearing on me. I'm starting to wonder if I am overreacting and if refusing to let them stay, even temporarily, makes me a terrible sister. So, AITA for refusing to let my brother and his family stay at my apartment, even though they need a place to stay. AITA for refusing to let my sister's boyfriend move in after a crisis. I, 28F, have always been close with my sister, Emily, 30F. We grew up relying on each other through everything, from family drama to minor heartbreaks, and even though we live in different cities now, we still keep in touch almost daily. Our parents are divorced, and while they each have their quirks, Emily and I share a strong bond that often feels more like friendship than siblinghood. Over the years, I've always tried to be supportive of her choices, even when I didn't fully agree with them. Emily has been dating her boyfriend, Dan, 32M, for about a year. I met him a few times, and while he seems nice enough on the surface, there's always been something slightly off about him. He's very controlling in subtle ways, and Emily tends to shrug off things that make me uncomfortable. She's never directly asked me to intervene, and I generally try to respect her judgment, even if I don't fully trust Dan myself. A couple of weeks ago, Emily called me in tears. She explained that she and Dan had gotten into a huge argument, and he had stormed out of her apartment, leaving her feeling unsafe because he had been drunk and yelling. She said she didn't know where he had gone, but that she didn't want to call the police. I was upset for her, but I told her she needed to prioritize her safety and consider contacting authorities if she felt threatened. Emily insisted she didn't want to escalate things legally and asked if she could stay at my apartment for a few days to calm down. I agreed immediately. She arrived the next evening, visibly shaken, and we spent the first night talking and trying to process what happened. The next morning, Emily brought up a new issue. She said Dan had nowhere to go because he was temporarily locked out of his own place due to an administrative error with his landlord. She asked me if he could stay at my apartment just for a few nights until things got sorted out. I was immediately hesitant. I told her I wasn't comfortable having him stay, given that he had just created a frightening situation for her, and I barely knew him. I explained that I wanted to support Emily, but that I couldn't put myself in a position where a stranger who had recently been aggressive could be living in my home. Emily started crying and said she didn't know who else to ask. She argued that I had a big place and that it would be easy for him to stay in the guest room. I repeated that I couldn't do it, trying to stay calm, but Emily kept pressing. She said that I was being unfair and unsupportive, that I was letting fear dictate my decisions, and that if I really loved her, I would help. I felt cornered, and the conversation turned tense. Emily accused me of picking sides, and I reminded her that I wasn't taking sides. I just had boundaries about my personal space and safety. She then said that she had been trying to make things work with Dan because he was different from other people and that I didn't understand their relationship. I admitted I didn't, but that I had seen him yell at her and manipulate her emotions. I told her that I couldn't risk my own peace of mind or feel obligated to host someone who had been aggressive, even if temporarily. She eventually left my apartment that afternoon after a long, silent drive back to her place. Over the next few days, Emily's messages grew colder. She stopped reaching out as much, and when she did, it was often to guilt me about not letting Dan stay. She said I had abandoned her, that she felt alone, and that if I didn't step up, she didn't know what our relationship meant. I tried to respond with empathy, emphasizing that I supported her but couldn't compromise my own safety. The more I said this, the more frustrated she became. She accused me of treating her like a child and implied that I didn't trust her judgment at all. I reminded her that this wasn't about trust. It was about me setting clear boundaries for my home and myself. Things came to a head when she came over unannounced one weekend. I was out running errands and returned to find her sitting in my living room with Dan, who was grinning like nothing had happened. I was shocked and furious. Emily said she had just dropped by to check in and thought it would be okay for Dan to stay for a night. I immediately told them both that it wasn't okay, that I hadn't given permission, and that they needed to leave. Dan looked uncomfortable, but Emily was visibly angry. She shouted that I was being cruel and selfish, that I had made her feel unwelcome, and that my home wasn't supposed to be a place where I dictated her choices. I stayed calm, asked them to gather their things, and called a rideshare for them so they could leave. It was tense and exhausting, but I didn't back down. After this incident, Emily hasn't spoken to me much. She posted a vague Instagram story about how family should always be there for you, which I assume was directed at me. Some mutual friends have messaged me asking if I and Emily were okay, and I've tried to explain the situation honestly without painting myself as the villain. But it's tricky because they're close to both of us. I feel like I did the right thing by maintaining my boundaries, especially given the recent aggressive behavior, but I also feel sad about the strain it has caused on my relationship with my sister. I've been second-guessing myself, wondering if I overreacted or if I should have found a compromise, like letting Dan stay in a hotel or helping him find a temporary place. Part of me feels guilty for letting Emily down in her moment of crisis, even though I know that I have to prioritize safety and boundaries too. My friends are divided. Some say I was right to protect myself, while others think I should have tried harder to support her. I'm not sure if I'm being unreasonable or if this is just an unfortunate clash of boundaries and expectations. AITA for refusing to let my sister's boyfriend move in after their fight, even though she was desperate. Thank you for watching until the end. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel so you won't miss new videos also. Leave a comment. I'd love to hear your thoughts. Your support and engagement mean a lot to me. See you in the next video.